how do you get people to take responsibility for this stuff? I mean, this is the work
Mhm.
you do. I mean, I think maybe one of the biggest, call it, hills that you have to climb with people is getting them to accept it's them versus others. So what are
Mhm.
some of the things that maybe you're working on or doing or want to remind people of when it comes down to self-awareness?
Yeah. I love that question. There's a few things that come to mind immediately as I think about that. The first thing is one, normalizing the fact that we all have levels of dysfunction. Like we all do. So I think that there's something really powerful, Greg, when leaders like yourself show up in the media, show up on whatever platform you have, right? Whatever platform you have, when we show up and we are open and we're honest and we're transparent about our own process, our own flaws, our own shortcomings, I think that goes a really long way in normalizing the fact that we all have some level of dysfunction. I have yet to meet a person, regardless of their level of success, that hasn't had dysfunction in their history, in their past, in their family. So I think that's one piece of it, right? Like, how do we get people to actually move towards self-awareness is letting people know that guess what, there's dysfunction, there's going to be dysfunction there, and that's okay. Like it's totally fine, it's totally okay, it's totally normal. So I think normalizing is one of the key things that we can all do as leaders. The second thing I think is introducing a new paradigm where taking responsibility for self is actually empowering. So one of the biggest shifts I think that people make, or that I see people make in my work with them, is moving from feeling burdened by taking responsibility for self to actually feeling empowered, which is a different paradigm, if you know what I mean, right? Like it's a different way of seeing yourself. It's a different way of seeing the world around you. It's a different way of seeing your life.
Mhm.
So to make it more practical, like before I started doing my own work, like I didn't want to take responsibility for myself. Like I didn't want you to point out to me the stuff that I was doing that was, getting me in my own way, that was sabotaging my relationships, that was keeping me from the level of success that I really wanted. Like I didn't want to see it because I didn't want to be the one at fault. I didn't want to be the one at blame. I didn't want to be the one that needed to take responsibility for her own life. It just felt like too much of a burden for me.
Right. And I
I'd
think it's
rather avoid.
for a lot of people, right? It's a big pill to swallow.
It's a big pill to swallow. And I think the reason it is such a big pill to swallow, I think it goes back to how we look at it. If we look at it as this is a huge burden for me, like, oh, I can't do this. Like, how am I gonna overcome all these challenges? Like, oh my God, I got all these like really shitty patterns from my past. Like, how am I gonna change them? If we look at it from that perspective and through that paradigm, we'll never get there. Right? Like I've met so many people that are like, I don't want to go there, Shema. Like, don't take me down that road. I don't want to look at myself. I don't want to look at my patterns. It's my partner's fault. It's my mom's fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my team's fault. It does, right? Like that's a really easy place to say because it keeps us in our comfort zone.
Right.
But if we can shift that as, guess what, though, actually the most empowering position, and I actually believe the only empowered position you can take in your life is to take, and I call it radical responsibility, like complete responsibility for everything. Like everything in your life you created,
Yep.
the
Totally
good, the
agree.
bad, and the ugly.
Totally agree.
Right. And until and unless you do that, you're going to keep feeling so disempowered.